It's time for the Rose Chat Podcast, a podcast dedicated to celebrating the world's most beloved flower, the rose. Join award-winning gardeners Chris VanCleave and Teresa Byington as they chat with rose lovers and experts from around the globe. With each episode, you'll gain valuable knowledge and insights to achieve the rose garden you've always dreamed of. Listen now as we explore the world of roses.
Hey friends, today I'm chatting with Heidi Mortensen. Heidi is the Rose Portfolio Manager from LINKSTAR Roses and Plants. In her role, Heidi directs the introduction of roses from breeders around the world. In addition to working with the breeders, she works closely with growers and sales reps and retail leaders and liner suppliers and anyone who loves and wants to talk roses. So she's in the right place today. Hey, Heidi, welcome to Rose Chat.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're just thrilled. Heidi, from the sound of things, you do talk to a lot of people about roses.
I do. Yeah, I love it. Every day, all day.
I just love it. So how did you get into this kind of work?
Yeah, I have always loved horticulture. So I actually was a physics major in college, and I happened to get a job at on a landscape crew, and they had a little greenhouse where they grew flowers. Ooh. And I got a chance to get my fingers dirty, and I realized, I don't want to go to the stars. I want to stay right down in the dirt. So I switched over into horticulture, and I've never looked back. So over the years, I've been in horticulture it's been over 23 years now. So did a lot of time in retail. So I was a nursery manager in Utah while I was going to school. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've done garden writing. I've launched new garden centers across the Northeast, brand management, even did personal gardening for a while and landscape design. So when I was horticulture director at the company called Blue Seal Feeds in the Northeast in upstate New York, I happened to go on a tour of LINKSTAR. That was back when it was Conard Pyle, and it was right after Knockout first came out. And it gave me my first look into the world of plant introduction, and I fell in love. And I knew that someday I was going to work for LINKSTAR. So, it was about 15 years later before I had enough experience to be able to join the team, and I'm just so proud to work for a 125-year-old rose company, and it's just amazing. Every day I learn something new, and I look forward to learning more.
Oh, what a wonderful company, a rich heritage, wonderful people. Got to spend a little time with Jacques through the years and, learned a lot from him. It just, you're with a good crew.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very blessed.
Yep. Historically sound. So last year, it was predicted that one of the main trends in gardening I read was a return to cottage garden, my favorite, and grandmother flowers. So I feel like you can't be around cottage gardening and grandmother flowers very long at all without bumping into roses. Is that something you guys found to be true?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we just are wrapping up our 2024 kind of booking season, and the trend is continuing, and it's very, very strong. People are coming back to roses, and they're wanting to explore and experiment, which is beautiful. So they're looking for things that we're seeing people looking for: is a high petal count, those old-fashioned garden roses they think about like in their grandma or their great-grandma's gardens. Mm-hmm. And they want that experience too, especially with a fragrance. So mm-hmm. That's definitely, we are definitely seeing a very, very strong trend there.
Well, something I saw on Instagram was a young friend of mine, she's very accomplished, very professional, and she put on Instagram one day that it was the best day, one of the best days of her life. She had picked flowers from her garden and was taking them to a friend. So I know that, and you just see everyone saying, I want a cutting garden, and you just really can't have a cutting garden without beautiful roses at some point. And I think people are a little bit afraid of them, but they needn't be, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're not really seeing that fear anymore. I think the gardeners of this generation, COVID kind of forced a lot of people who were kind of surface gardeners. Maybe they had a few house plants, or maybe they just had a basic landscape they were maintaining. It forced them into looking into experimenting with them. And the beautiful thing is they don't seem to be hesitant with roses, because they want that experience. And like you said, roses is a vital part of the experience of a cut flower garden.
Well, for me, I remembered something. I didn't know what. It was many years before I realized this fragrance that I had in my head from my childhood was probably a hedgerow of maybe rugosas or something, because that's when I started growing rugosas myself. I went, oh, that's it. So the grandmother thing is so true. There was an article that I read that said that Home Depot said in April that there was one plant that was booming in popularity this year, and it was roses. So I think it was pretty much across the board. People were running out of roses, and that's a great thing.
It is. It's we still have not caught up to the demand that Americans are hungry for roses. Bare root roses take about 2 years in the ground, and the trend is still very strong. So, which is wonderful. It's great that roses are becoming a normal part of the landscape again.
Yes, it is wonderful. Speaking of trends, are there colors that are more popular than others that you're seeing?
Yeah, it depends on where the roses are being sold. I think there's different trends across different platforms. What we're seeing for our online sellers is definitely those creamy ivories, kind of paler, kind of pastels. Because a lot of times in retail, they go for the strong, impulsive colors, right? So people are hungry for something a little different, and so they look online for those colors. Mm-hmm. We're also seeing a strong demand for roses that have kind of a cedar or brownish undertone to them, because it's a really difficult feature to find in roses paired with disease resistance. So lots of people looking for that color range.
Yeah, I think in flowers across the board, people are looking for that cafe au lait sort of look. Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Yeah, and I would say too, it's funny with yellow roses. Yellow's always been kind of a steady color in roses. If you look at the long sales history of Star, yellow is always kind of stood still. But with online sales, yellow seems to have been growing in popularity. So the demand for yellow is out there. It's just you couldn't really find a whole lot of them. So that's good to see too.
I'm seeing a lot of roses that are yellow to the gold too. And I don't remember seeing as many of those before, but there's some really rich, deep golden yellow colors that are coming out now. Another thing, what about growing in containers? Is that something that's speeding up or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with the price of the housing market right now, people have generally smaller spaces, or they're living in ADR units in their backyard of their parents, or everyone has a lot smaller space. So we definitely see that. Part of our trialing process that we do at Star is a rose has to perform well in containers. Mm-hmm. So it has become a normal part of our process, because we know that a lot of people are going to be putting them in containers and enjoying them that way.
Oh, and it's such a wonderful way. I have roses everywhere, but it is so nice to have those that are just right up where you live and right where you are, and that is a really special thing to get to have them, really close to you.
Yeah,
and
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think people too, consumers are looking for things to put in containers that can last for more than just a few months in the summer. something that comes back and also still has that flower power. So, some of the things we're selecting for is longer bloom period. A lot of times roses have a little rest in the summer, but we're really trying to select for roses that don't rest as much, so that people, when they put them in a container, can enjoy that flower from spring through fall.
Mm-hmm. And there's of course we have beautiful annuals, but perennials don't give us that. So, but roses do. So they're one of the few perennials that you can just count on for summer long beauty. And I think I'm seeing a return to maybe crafts with flowers. On Instagram, I'm seeing that so many people are like pressing their flowers and they're drying flowers, and roses are perfect for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're starting to see in stores, especially even in the mass market. Once something goes into mass market, it's definitely like very trendy, and dried flowers is one of those. So, and almost in every dried flower arrangement you see, there are roses. So definitely a trend that we're watching as well.
As a grower of many roses, I clip them, and I literally have bowls. Roses just a lot of roses hold their shape, a bit of their color. I mean, they're just really beautiful dried. And some of them, the smaller heads, I just let them dry, put a little water in there for a while, and then it just dries, and they just kind of dry in these bunches. I mean, it's beautiful. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of extra that you have to do to get them to dry pretty. Now, if you're going for keeping the exact color and that kind of thing, you might need some silicone or something to dry them in. But honestly, they just dry so pretty. So many roses are great for that one.
Yeah, usually... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing to look for in roses is that dry well is there are some roses that we call that clean really well, but that's just another term for their petals shatter easily, so that they clean quickly, and they tend not to dry as well. So if you see that terminology in your product description that says cleans well, that probably means that it has a really thin petal and that it would shatter quickly. So if that's a big part of what you're looking to do, try and stay away from roses that have that descriptor.
But we do love roses that do, excuse me, we do love roses that clean well. So They just, they don't need us to fuss with them. They just keep coming back. So exactly. That's a wonderful attribute, but maybe not the best if you're looking to dry them.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk fragrance. That's the big thing, something that every rose lover is interested in. So tell us about fragrance.
Yeah, when I first started at Star, the first question I got anytime I visited a grower or a retailer or anybody in the street, everyone asked, Heidi, where is the fragrance? Where did it go? Why? How did fragrance get bred out of roses? And so it was definitely something that everyone was looking for. And I don't know if you know Otto and Sons, they're a really big rose grower in California. So I think Scott there, he put it best. He says, the color draws them in and the fragrance seals the deal.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's so true. Whenever big initiative at Star Roses and Plants is the experience. So not only performance, but we want to draw them in with an amazing flower shape and a color. And then we want you to, because the first thing everyone does, right, is put their noses in the roses. That's what I like to say. And because they expect it. And so we have looked across our entire portfolio of roses. We have a lot of breeders that we work with, and we've put together a collection of our most deeply fragrant roses. Not just like you got to really smell it roses, like ones that you can walk by and you can smell without even putting your nose in. And we put that collection together under our Bloomables brand, and it's called Scentables. So we have some amazing ones in there. Some of them are older roses that have been around a long time, and some of them are brand new. And we are introducing every year at least one new rose specifically for this collection.
Nice. Well, just in excuse me, just in randomly buying the beautiful roses. And I don't just go for scent because I love the shapes, I love the colors and the styles, but you just are in general seeing more fragrance.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the rose industry who are developing products and working with breeders are beginning to select for fragrance. It's really hard though, because fragrance is like a unicorn trait, is what I like to call it. It shows up. It shows up when it wants to, and it doesn't often compared with good garden performance. Or maybe it doesn't compared with a rose that opens very well because it gets botrytis because it's too roughly. So our collection, if you look across it, it's a culmination of breeding ever since the 50s and 60s. So it has taken that long to come up with enough roses that have garden performance, fragrance, high petal count, and great vase life too. So it's the beautiful thing about fragrance. I just love trying to find its fragrant profile. Roses generally fit under like 4 different profiles, and every nose is a little bit different, and it could depend on the time of day when someone is smelling that rose. But generally, they fall into 4. Generally, there's like a very like citrus smell, like oranges or lemons. There's some roses that have that really strong kind of acidic smell to them. Then there's the roses that have that really fresh smell, kind of like baby powder or linen or soap. And then there's the spicy ones, the ones that smell like cloves or cinnamon, and have that spice. Examples like Bolero is very, very spicy. You can smell it and you're like, wow, that smells like I'm holding cloves in my hands. And then the 4th one is kind of like wild card. Those are the ones where you get kind of that licorice flavor, or sometimes like grass, where there's kind of a wild card in there. So so it's really fun trying to. One of the things I'm selecting for is I want to make sure we have different fragrance profiles so that you can enjoy and create bouquets. You can bring bouquets in. You can have a lemony, sugary one that's really sweet, or you can have one that's really fruity. So we want to teach people about that, because it's a big part of the rose industry, and teach people how to create bouquets with different fragrances, and so you could enjoy them inside.
Absolutely. That's such great information, because, I can have a very fragrant rose in my garden in the morning, but by afternoon, it's not very fragrant, or vice versa. Sometimes the fragrance comes alive in the heat of the day. So it is very subjective, and time of day has a lot to do with it. But it's so nice that a lot of attention is being given to fragrance, because it is something that attaches to our memories, our pleasure, and in some ways, I think our health. So they say that the rose fragrance is relaxing and to people. And so there's just so many good things about it. And I'm so glad that you guys are, that is something that's very important to the growers and the breeders in bringing the fragrance back. So good work on that. Now, no matter how many roses I have, I'm always over the moon to hear about the new ones. And you have a lot of beautiful new ones to talk about today. The first one on our list is gorgeous, and it sounds delicious. Raspberry Cupcake.
Yeah, Raspberry Cupcake. This comes from Cordes. They're our breeder partner in Germany. And I had a chance to visit them this summer for the first time, and got to see their amazing rose fields and their development. And with Cordes, it's kind of interesting because they don't even send us roses until they've tested them for 10 years across all of their trial sites. So anytime you see a rose that's from Cordes that comes to us, that rose has been through the ringer. So Raspberry Cupcake, it's Kristen Smith. She's our rose trial manager at Star Roses. She's been with the company for a really long time. We always like to say, oh, there's the Cordes genetics. You can see it. They have such a unique genetic profile and how they perform. And Raspberry Cupcake is like the culmination of their breeding. So it's a beautiful pink with like lavender undertones. The reason why we called it Raspberry Cupcake is because of its fragrance profile. So it has a very raspberry with a little bit of a lemon scent to it. But it's very, very strong. It has a ruffled petal, so kind of reminded us of like a cupcake wrapper. One of the things I love about Raspberry Cupcake, it's a hybrid tea, and generally hybrid teas are very, very upright, right? They're kind of a little bit bare at the bottom, and they're very, very tall and upright. Raspberry Cupcake is very bushy, so which is unusual for a hybrid tea. A lot of the breeders are working on form and height on hybrid teas. Over the next 10 years, you're going to see more of this habit and this profile from us, from all of our breeders, but especially from Cordes and Mayon. So Raspberry Cupcake is kind of like one of the first in this kind of arena to do this. The flower itself has over 65 petals on average, and it has excellent resistance to black spot. It's one of the few roses in our trial gardens in Pennsylvania that always has flowers on it, even in the summer. Jacques called the trial gardens in Pennsylvania rose hell, and it's true because we're trying to kill roses. We have every single rose disease in that garden that you can't. We don't spray, we don't irrigate, we don't prune, we just plant it and forget about it, and then we test it and see. Okay, if someone were to plant this in the back corner of the property and never do anything with it, what would happen? So it's a really tough filter before it goes out to external trials. So Raspberry Cupcake is one of the few roses that always has flowers on it. And Thomas Knoll, the breeder over at Cordes, says his description of it, it's very busy, because it's always setting flower buds. So I've always loved that terminology from him. They're very busy. It's very, very busy. So as you can imagine, this was a new introduction to our Scendables collection because of that fragrance, its performance, its romantic 65 plus petals. So if you're looking for one of those roses that can bloom all summer, super low maintenance, stays a little bushier, and is fragrant, Raspberry Cupcake is such a great option.
Well, I'm in one of those a little bit tricky zones for some roses, 5B, but all the Cordes roses do well for me in my garden. And when you see the words, you see how beautiful it is, and you see the words extremely fragrant, excellent disease resistant, it's going to be a winner for sure in your garden. And I remember the days when Jacques used to say, we send our roses to rose hell, so that doesn't happen in your backyard. So
yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's funny. Some of our breeders, they sometimes like to complain. You trial too hard. You trial too hard. It's like, well, you know what? There's a reason why we've been around for 125 years, and our roses are fantastic. It's because we're very strict. It's got to pass rose hell, or else only the best and nothing less is what Annabelle likes to say.
That's wonderful. Now, our second rose is one that was released in this year, and I know some people who have it, and they just say they're raving about it, and that's Top Cream. Yeah,
Top Cream. Oh my gosh. Just gorgeous. We talked a little bit about those trends with that kind of ivory, creamy whites. Very romantic, over 100 petals on average, and the fragrance on Top Cream is incredible. It smells like pears. There's a little bit of spice in there too. It reminded me of I don't know if you ever had poached pears where you put cinnamon on them, but that's just what that fragrance reminds me of. I had a chance to visit Life in Rose Farm down in Texas in July. As you can imagine how hot and dry it is down there, and she loves Top Cream. She's a fresh cut rose grower, and she also sells bare root online, and she's a lot of different varieties in her garden, and Top Cream is one of the few that just keep kept going. She goes, I couldn't believe it. It's one of her favorite roses, and so it's great cut flower. It gets a little bit of pink in the center when the temperatures are a little bit cooler. And if you compare this to other like industry, like quote unquote fragrant roses, we have a commercial comparison bed in Pennsylvania, and these creamy whites, they tend to defoliate some of the older ones. And so top cream is just, it looks gorgeous all season long, even in humid climates. And you look at some of the other industry kind of creamy color ones, and they're completely defoliated in the summer. So just a breakthrough in disease resistance in this type of rose.
It's gorgeous. That old-fashioned bloom and the color. I love it that it gets a little pink in it too. And yeah, this is a beauty. This is really, really beauty.
Yeah, it was featured on the cover of Horticulture magazine. So we've been getting a lot of really great feedback from end consumers. 23 was the first year it was on the market where people could purchase it, and just the ravings about it have been great. So as you can imagine, it's also part of our Scentables collection as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, another collection of roses that has been very popular is the Sunblaze. So tell us about the new ones in the Sunblaze collection.
Yeah, Sunblaze are our sun-loving miniature roses. So sometimes when you think of miniature roses, you might think of like the grocery store or those things you get for like Mother's Day that you put on your table and you kind of throw away, or maybe you try one out in the garden and they kind of defoliated, or maybe they didn't overwinter. Sunblaze came along years ago as a way to bring the breeding of garden roses into miniatures. So there's 4 new colors that we've introduced recently, and we're always replacing colors with better colors, better disease resistance, better landscape performance. So we have 4 new ones. There's lemon, and lemon is the largest flowering miniature rose that we have at Star Roses. Generally when you think of a miniature rose, you think, okay, maybe it'll be a half inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. Sunblaze lemon gets 1 to 1.5 inches across. It has a really pretty sweet lemon yellow, and it finishes a pretty cream. So very disease resistant. Like I said, that kind of creamy yellowy color is coming back into vogue. So we've seen a lot of people really interested in this one.
It's a good color.
Yeah. Peach is the next one. This is my favorite. This is my favorite Sunblaze. If you want to try one miniature, you should try Sunblaze Peach. It has this beautiful ombre coloration to it, where it has pink, yellow, and coral all in the same flower. And once again, much larger flower that you would think of on a miniature rose. So those colorations, those like apricot-y coral ombre colors are really hot right now, especially in brick and mortar retail. So definitely, if you just want to try one, try a peach.
Oh, that one's pretty. That would be so good in a container up close to where it's just a great little pop of color. Very pretty.
Yeah, Sunblaze roses do great in containers, and the great thing about them is they bloom all summer. Especially these newer ones, they just have a higher propensity to set flower buds, even when it's hot. The next one, these are brand new. The next 2 are brand new in 24. So you're going to see them for the first time this spring. There's watermelon. Red miniature roses are known for not being very disease resistant. So we finally found a red that has great disease resistance. We called it watermelon because when the petals open up at the base of the petal, it has a little bit of like a yellow and a green. So it just reminded me of like a watermelon rind. But it's just a beautiful red.
It's a good red. It's a real good red.
Yeah. And then our last one, this one almost became a drift rose. it's that disease resistant. And that's saying something for a miniature rose. If you walk out in our trial fields in Pennsylvania in the middle of the summer, every single miniature rose that comes to us that we're trialing is completely defoliated. But passion fruit is not. It is incredible. It is the darkest pink sunblaze we've ever introduced. If you're looking for that really dark, rich pink, passion fruit is definitely, dragon fruit is definitely the one. So.
Oh, it's beauty. It's a beauty. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are our newest introductions of sunblaze in that series. We have lots of other beautiful colors as well, but just great for container gardeners.
Now, there's some new ones coming out in the Knockout series as well.
Yeah, we actually introduced you're going to see 2 new knockouts on the market in spring 24. So the last time we introduced a knockout was Petite. And so we've got 2 new amazing stories to tell you. And the first one is called the Easy Beasy. And this is the first knockout from our own internal breeding at STAR. So this comes directly from STAR, and it was really about taking Sunny Knockout and improving it. Oh. So, Easy Beasy has more flower power, it sets more flower buds, and it has a longer lasting yellow. So Sunny is really pretty and sunny for a couple days, whereas Easy Beasy will last a week or longer, have that beautiful yellow. It also doesn't have a rest period in the summer like Sunny does. It's always blooming. And its disease resistance is even better. So this is truly a no spray rose. It's a single, so it has that nice open form, so pollinators can access that sweet nectar. So, we named it Easy Beasy because it's always covered in pollinators, and because it's a true no spray rose, you can with confidence plant a rose in your pollinator garden that's going to bloom all season, and that's going to be healthy and safe for our pollinators.
It's very, very pretty. Oh, I'm loving the picture, and I'm sure that it's much prettier in person, and you can see why it's named Beasy, because I'm sure the bees all love it.
Oh, they do. Yeah, it's funny. Some roses just are, when you walk through the trial fields, it's like, wow, it's just there for some reason, like a lot of the polyantha types, a lot of the singles, but part of it too that attracts pollinators to a flower is fragrance, and Easy Beasy has a fragrance, which is nice. It has a nice kind of mild citrus fragrance to it.
Oh, nice! That's a big bonus.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
And then our next introduction comes from Mr. Will Radler. And it's our very first ever orange knockout. So then we named it Orange Glow, and there's a reason why we named it that. When we were doing the trials on this, something that we noticed is even on really cloudy, overcast, kind of rainy days, Orange Glow was just luminescent. It had that really beautiful bright orange. And it literally glowed, especially against its lime green foliage. It's very, very bright and happy. So we wanted to call Orange Glow to kind of highlight not just the color, but just a really unique feature to it. We're calling this the most disease-resistant knockout we've ever introduced because it has rust resistance. So this is an amazing knockout for the West Coast as well as the East Coast. So it has more petals, and paired with the rust resistance, that gorgeous orange color, and with that lime green foliage, it really deserved to be a knockout, and it's an exciting find.
Oh, really pretty. I can see where it gets its glow name. It comes through even in a picture.
It does. And that's saying something, because it's so hard with rose photography. It's so hard to capture the essence of what you can see in person, but Orange Glow comes across really beautifully in pictures too. So.
Well, our next one is really definitely a throwback to the grandmother flower type, Romantica ball gown. Ooh, what a beautiful rose, and that cabbage rose look.
It does. It has that really old-fashioned cabbage shape with the quartered bloom. It's just, there's so many petals in there. It has over 100 petals on average. Romantica is a series of roses from Mayon. So Mayon is our breeder partner in France. They have produced some of the most amazing roses, including the Peace Rose. But we love the Romantica series because it's everything we're looking for, right? It's that grandma look, it's the high petal counts, the fragrance. But it's paired with modern genetics. So you don't have to worry about spraying and doing too much to it. It is extremely disease resistant. This rose has performed well all over the country. We have 14 different trial sites. That's something that's really unique to Star Roses and Plants that I hope everyone realizes. And you should always ask the question, where is this trialed? Was this trialed where I live? Because we are one of the only rose companies in the nation that trial in 14 different sites for multiple years. Because we want to make sure that rose is going to perform like we say it's going to. So Romantica Ball Gown is one of those. It has performed well everywhere. So so people can enjoy and bringing cut flowers in and not have to worry about all the work.
Well, this is a cottage gardener's dream rose. Sounds like to me.
It is, and you know what? Guess what my favorite thing about it is?
What?
It's the fragrance. It has a really unique fragrance. When you smell this, it will just take you back to, it smells like fresh linen, baby powder, like you just hung like laundry out on the line. Like it has that really fresh fragrance and it's so strong. So this would be an amazing smell to bring into your home. Right. So to cut that and bring it in and have that fresh smell is really a great experience too.
Well, when you see words like intense fragrance and that can be described as classic rose with notes of grass and powder, that's pretty perfect.
It is, yeah.
That's pretty perfect.
Yeah.
Well, lucky for me, as I've been getting my garden ready for fall, I found at least 3 places where my cottage garden needs a rose. So lucky me.
Yeah. Well, Romantica Ball Gown, just make sure you put it somewhere where it can get nice and tall because it is a very tall, upright hybrid tea. So just prepare for that. It's, it's going to get anywhere from 5 to 6 feet tall. In some of the more southern gardens in California, it could get even taller than that. So just make sure you put it in the right spot. And allow it to do its thing. So. Oh,
good to know. Good to know. What about the width on it?
It's because it has that really upright shape. It has that typical hybrid tea, 2 to 3 feet wide. So very tall and very upright.
Great. Good. Well, we have another beauty, Desert Sky. A great color on this one.
Yeah, this one is probably one of my personal favorite new introductions for 2024. We talked a little earlier about some of those color trends, and this starts out, we named it because it reminds me of like the Red Rock country in the southwest part of the United States. It has that like cedar undertone, so it starts off with like a cedar colored bloom, and then it goes to orange, and then it finishes mauve. So you get this amazing like multicolor effect on the plant. One of the things I love about this is that it's super compact. So, you're probably familiar with hot cocoa. That's a great rose. It's been around a long time. It has that beautiful color, kind of that deep cedar color in it. Desert Sky is like the next version that's more compact. So this has disease resistance and it stays nice and short and compact. It's a great rose for like under your window or at the very front of the garden because it stays under 2.5 feet tall. It also performs wonderfully in containers as well. It has a really light cinnamon fragrance too. You really, depending upon the time of day, but it also has that kind of spice fragrance undertone.
It's an unusual color, but a beautiful color. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
So our next one has a yummy name, Cherries and Champagne.
Yeah. So, one of the features in roses that is really desirable that we're always looking for is called a reverse, where there's one color on one side of the petal and another color on the opposite side. So like some of the older varieties have been out for a long time. Like you think of Love, is kind of well known for that. Ketchup and mustard. But Cherries and Champagne has something a little bit more elegant and unique to it, and the fact that it has a color changing reverse. So when it first comes out, it's red with a yellow reverse, and as it ages, it goes dark pink with a cream. And so as you get more and more flowers on the plant, you get this kind of multi-tonal effect. So it's just such a beautiful, display of flowers. It's kind of one of those things you got to see it to appreciate it. But it also has a really nice dark glossy foliage to it, which helps those colors stand out even more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's my favorite foliage. I love that dark glossy foliage. It just kind of makes that color pop for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is our last one. It is a gorgeous one. Powder Puff Pink.
Yeah. So, this was bred by Dr. Jim Sproul, right in Bakersfield, California. So he's a breeder right here in the U.S. And he has such a unique breeding ancestry in his roses. And so we get a lot of really amazing colors out of him. But this one had something that we hadn't seen before. The first time I ever saw this was in California in one of our trial sites. We have 2 trial sites in California. And we were going along, and there's, we have thousands and thousands of roses that we're trialing at any one time. And when I was going by this, I thought, why is there a peony in the middle of our roses? And I walked up to him like, oh my gosh, that's not a peony, that's a rose. It's often mistaken, and it's not just me. People will be like, wow, that looks like a peony. So it has a really unique bud shape. It's very round, like a peony bud. Mm-hmm. So it's like this perfect little marble, and as it opens, it has that peony-shaped flower to it. It has multiple flowers per stem, and so you get this like some rounded buds, some open flowers, and every single stem is just like this puff of pink. So one of our marketing manager, Susan, she named this rose because she walked out, she's like, oh my gosh, it's like a power puff. I'm like, I know, that's a great name for it. And it's such an electric pink too. So if you're looking for a peony that blooms all summer, you should get Powerpuff Pink.
What are the size of the blooms when they're open?
They're a nice size. They're anywhere from like 3 to 4 inches, depending upon the time of year. Generally, the spring flush, they're a little bit bigger. But they do set buds all through the summer, which is fantastic too. So you get that color all year long.
It's a beautiful color. And that ruffly edge always gets to me. I just love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a beauty. Well, these are, like I say, I've got at least 3 spots that would be great for roses. So you've certainly given me a lot to think about. But one of the issues I'm hearing from people is, where can they purchase? Because, of course, they go to their local garden centers and even big box stores who all carry roses. But if you're looking for something specific, sometimes you just have a little harder time finding them. So what's your advice for that?
Yeah, so, Star Roses and Plants is the only rose breeder that does not sell directly to consumers online. And the reason why we don't do that is we actually try and support other online growers and support our customers. So we have some really great relationships with some different folks. Number one, you'll find a lot of our roses in the Bloomables pot and the Scenttables collection. You can find them at big box stores. You can also find them online through those mass market merchandisers. But we also have some really amazing partners that sell these varieties online, like Life and Rose Farm, Menagerie, Heirloom, Edmunds, just to name a few. So a lot of times with these newer varieties, the best place to find them is some of those really high-end sellers online, because they're keeping track and they're coming to visit us and they know what's coming down the pipeline. And so they're the ones who get it first. And so that's the best place to find them right away.
Excellent. Would you go through that list again? I didn't hear the first two.
Yeah, Life and Rose Farm, Menagerie, Heirloom, and Edmunds.
Wonderful. You know, sometimes we see your roses there and we don't always know, is this a relationship that you have? And, you know, so it's so good for us to know that, that you support this. This is a mutual relationship, and that's really wonderful.
Yeah, we want to support them, and a lot of times they'll have access to new roses the year before they even come out too. So, and you're going to see on some of their websites, they're going to be launching some 25 roses for us. So keep an eye out for those ones that we haven't even talked about today. They're going to be launching them here in the next month or two. So just keep an eye out for those, because we got some exciting stuff coming for 25.
Well done on this collection from today, because we've really got something for everyone. Containers, the grandmother flowers, the standards. We've got our knockouts. The miniatures. We've covered a lot of ground today. It's been wonderful to see these and to hear about them.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk roses and introduce some new roses to the market. So thank you so much.
Well, Heidi, it's been just a pleasure to chat with you, and thanks for the work that you do, and all of the STAR people. We appreciate them so much, and I do thank you for taking the time to share with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Well, friends, we're glad you joined us today. We've got a lot to be excited. It's fall, and we're ready to plan for spring, and we've got a lot to be excited about as we plan for new roses in our gardens. Well, until next time, have fun in your garden.
You've been listening to the Rose Chat Podcast with Chris VanCleave and Teresa Byington, expert rose gardeners who want to help you achieve the rose garden of your dreams. Don't miss an episode. Listen anytime on our website at rosechatpodcast.com or listen on the go via the Rose Chat app on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Share this podcast with your social networks and join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by using the hashtag RoseChat. Join us next time for another edition of the Rose Chat Podcast. The Rose Chat Podcast is a production of the Rose Chat Media Group, Birmingham, Alabama.